What comes to mind when you hear Kuala Lumpur? You're probably picturing affordable luxury, infinity pools, and gigantic skyscrapers that dwarf mountains. And how it's home to not just the tallest twin towers, but the second tallest building in the world. Or perhaps Malaysia is a country you've barely heard of. We certainly didn't know what to expect as we boarded the plane. And yeah, KL skyline is impressive, but what truly blew us away was what we found at ground level. Ready?
Yeah, well, I need to fill up the water bottle. Does yours need full up?
Yes. So right now we're just about to head out to go get some lunch and have a look around the National Museum of Malaysia. But first, we're going to tell you about last week when we went to visit Chinatown. Walking through Kuala Lumpur, it's impossible not to feel the weight of the history here. In the 1700s, when the British forcibly took Penang, they discovered a land rich in tin and rubber. Tin especially was in high demand, used for food packaging, tools and weapons. This played a vital role in powering the expansion of the British Empire and the Industrial Revolution. But there was a problem. The British couldn't convince the Malay population to work the mines, and they weren't about to pick up a shovel themselves. So they looked elsewhere, toward China, a country dealing with overpopulation and economic hardship. By the 1930s, nearly 2 million Chinese had arrived in Malaysia, and by 1947, they made up almost 38% of the population. Kuala Lumpur became one of the main settlements for these miners, and slowly Chinatown took shape. What we love most about this place is how much of that history is still alive. The original buildings the miners once lived in are still standing. And down a narrow alleyway, murals tell stories of people who once lived here.
That alleyway that we were just in, there's lots of beautiful artwork on the walls, and each of them tell a story. The story that really stood out to me was the one about the little girl. You can see her peeking out of the window, looking at the little boys playing marble outside. And this story is about how things turn around for her in the future. In the next scene, you see that she's grown up. She has started working in the oldest industry known to man, and that is the sex trade. But in doing so, she manages to save a lot of money. And then the next scene that you see is her as an older woman looking through the window because she has ended up becoming the landlady of the street. And it's just a great story of evolution, how you can come from nothing and own and really turn into something. And I think that's the moral of the story here, and I really, really love it.
And if you head to the north of Chinatown, you'll even see the very first Chinese temple built here, still standing and free to visit.
And there's no rules like certain dress code or whether or not you can take photos. The only rule is you have to go anti-clockwise.
But the Chinese culture here is only one of 3 main cultures in Malaysia. To truly understand this country, we need to explore the other 2, Indian and Malay.
Today, we've come to Little India, located in brickfields, to find out more about the history of why the Indian population in Malaysia settled here.
We started at the northeastern edge of brickfields, visiting 3 famous Hindu temples. Almost immediately, we were welcomed with the warmth and generosity that Hindu communities are known for.
Oh, it's free. It's temple food. Are you sure? Yeah, it's free. Oh, yes, please. Yeah. Just like the Chinese, the Indians were brought to Malaysia by the British for the rubber plantation and the tin mining, but they were also used in other industries like the railway line and brick making. And they make fantastic temple food. Feed the pigeons, I love it.
But then disaster struck. In the late 1800s, a huge flood swept through Kuala Lumpur in the wake of a massive fire. Most buildings were made of wood, leading to much of the town being destroyed. So from that point on, all new buildings were required to be built using brick and tile. To meet the high demand for bricks, a kiln district was established on top of a large clay pit. This area became synonymous with high-quality bricks, and over time it became known as brickfields. Later, large numbers of Indians, primarily from Tamil regions, arrived to work on the railways. Many settled around brickfields, and over generations, the Indian community made this area their home, becoming Malaysian citizens and weaving their vibrant, colourful culture into the fabric of the city.
So the last culture we need to find out about is the Malay culture. So we're thinking that if we come to the museum, then we'll find out a bit more information. We're going to go visit a mosque after this, but for now, we'll head inside, see what we can learn.
The history and culture of a country's native people is deep, layered, and complex. Malaysia is no exception. Since arriving here, two questions have followed us everywhere. Who are the Malays, and what does Malay culture really mean? To even begin to understand that, we have to go back in time, all the way to the 1400s. Back then, Malaysia sat, and still sits, at the heart of global trade, connecting east and west. One glance at the map explains why. It's the most logical route and a natural stopping point for travellers moving between worlds. And this is where Islam enters the story. When the ruler of Malacca converted, it opened the doors for scholars and missionaries to arrive and spread the faith. By the end of the 16th century, Islam had taken roots across the peninsula, and it remains the defining religion of Malaysia today. But Malay culture isn't just Islam. Islam is the foundation, not the full picture. In our brief encounters, conversations, and shared moments with locals, we've seen a culture shaped by centuries of movement and exchange. Many Malays trace their heritage beyond these borders, to places like Indonesia and Thailand. And with the long presence of Taoism, Buddhism, and Hinduism, even religious practices and ceremonies can feel unexpectedly familiar or entirely different. Ask a Malay, what does it mean to be Malay? And you may not get a simple answer, not because they don't know who they are, but because they are not just one thing. They are a living blend of every culture that has passed through this land, with Islam at the centre. And the same is true for all the cultures here. Identity in Malaysia cannot be neatly defined by religion or heritage alone. It's far more layered than that. And let's not pretend we know Malaysia. We've only been here for 3 weeks, and this country is clearly so much more than Kuala Lumpur. It feels like we've barely scratched the surface, but we're excited to see what the north has in store for us as we board the plane to Penang.